All right, so picture this. You're scrolling through your feed, catching up on the news, or maybe you're video chatting with a friend across the world, all happening instantly.
But beneath the surface lies an unseen world of complexity.
Absolutely. We're talking about undersea fiber optic cables. And today on Technically You, we are taking a deep dive into this topic,
Yeah.
unpacking the secrets of these information highways.
Most people don't even think about how the world connects.
Exactly.
But without these cables, our hyper-connected world would completely stop.
True.
So we're not talking about a small percentage of data here.
Right?
These cables carry something like 99% of international internet traffic.
99%. That's mind blowing. I mean, I knew that the internet relied on physical infrastructure, but to think that almost all of that information is zipping around on the ocean floor is amazing. It really puts things into perspective. So let's break it down. What exactly are these cables?
Okay, think of it this way.
Yeah.
Imagine miles of long, thin strands of glass or plastic meticulously bundled together and protected by layers of insulation. These cables are transmitting data as pulses of light, traveling at incredible speeds across vast stretches of ocean.
So we're talking about light shooting through glass at the bottom of the ocean to connect continents?
Pretty much.
That's already pretty wild. But how do they even get these cables down there? It's not like you can just hire a scuba diver with a really long extension cord.
No, it's a remarkable process.
Okay, I'm ready.
It starts with extensive surveying of the seabed using sonar and other technologies.
Got it.
They need to map out the safest roads, avoiding treacherous underwater canyons, active volcanoes, and even shipwrecks.
Shipwrecks?
Yeah,
Wow. I hadn't even considered that.
yeah,
Talk about an obstacle course.
yeah. Once they have the route planned, specialized ships come into play.
Okay.
These ships carefully unspool the cable from giant spools,
Wow.
laying it gently on the ocean floor.
So it's like a high stakes underwater sewing project.
Kind of, yeah.
And what about those areas where the cable might be exposed, like fishing nets or ship anchors? Do they just cross their fingers and hope for the best?
Not quite. In shallower waters, they often bury the cables to protect them from accidental damage.
Okay.
This involves specialized equipment that trenches a narrow path along the seabed and carefully tucks the cable in for added protection.
Wow. So it's a whole underwater construction operation.
Exactly.
But even if I can wrap my head around the logistics of getting these cables down there, there's still one big question that's bugging me. Power.
Okay.
How do you power something that's running for thousands of miles underwater? Where's the giant outlet at the bottom of the ocean?
That's where things get really ingenious.
Okay.
The cables themselves contain copper wires that carry electrical power. This power originates from stations on land. I believe they call them landing stations.
Right.
And it is used to run what are called repeaters.
Repeaters, what are those?
Repeaters are essentially signal boosters. They're placed at regular intervals along the cable every 5, 0, 1, 0, 0 km. Remember how data is transmitted as light pulses?
Yeah.
Well, those light signals can weaken over long distances. The repeaters amplify them, ensuring they can travel the entire length of the cable without losing strength.
Well, so it's like a chain of relay runners, inch passing the data baton to the next, keeping the information flowing.
Yeah,
That's pretty clever.
yes, it is.
But tell me, what are the main uses for these cables? How do they impact the average person? Someone like me or our listeners?
Think about everything you do online, sending emails, video calls, streaming movies, browsing social media, online banking,
Yeah.
even using cloud-based services to store your files and pictures. All of that relies on these undersea cables.
You are kidding, right?
Nope, I'm not. These undersea cables are the hidden infrastructure that makes our digital world possible.
So basically, without these cables, the internet as we know it would cease to exist. No more late night online shopping sprees.
Pretty much, yeah.
No more instantly connecting with friends and family across the globe.
It would be a dramatic shift.
Wow,
International communication would slow to a crawl.
absolutely.
Financial markets would be severely disrupted, and our ability to access information and entertainment would be severely limited.
So the internet wouldn't completely disappear, but it would feel like stepping back in time.
Exactly.
Okay, that paints a pretty bleak picture. But even with this intricate system in place, these cables can't be immune to problems, right?
Right.
What happens when something goes wrong?
Well, sometimes they do. Thankfully, these cables are constantly monitored for any signs of damage or disruption.
Okay.
When a problem is detected, it triggers an alert, and a specialized repair ship is dispatched to the location.
A repair ship? Sound like something out of a maritime action movie?
It's quite a sight.
Yeah.
These ships are equipped with advanced technology, including, and this is the cool part, grappling hooks to retrieve the damaged section of the cable from the ocean floor.
Wait, they literally fish these cables out of the ocean depths with grappling hooks?
Of course, it's not as simple as that. Locating and retrieving the cable requires highly skilled technicians, remotely operated vehicles, and precise maneuvering.
Cool.
But yes, grappling hooks are involved.
That's incredible. And I imagine these repairs are pretty urgent considering how reliant we are on these cables.
Absolutely. In November 2024, two cables under the Baltic Sea were severed. It was discovered that a ship had dragged its anchor for over 100 miles along the Baltic seabed, cutting an undersea cable that connected Sweden and Lithuania and the only communication cable connecting Finland with Germany.
Wow, no way.
Another vessel on Christmas Day 2024 also dragged its anchor across the seabed, causing a subsea cable outage. It is a stark reminder of how vulnerable our digital infrastructure can be.
Yeah, so we've established that these cables are vital and surprisingly vulnerable. Yeah, but this whole conversation has me picturing this tangled web of cables crisscrossing the ocean floor.
Right.
Is there any way to actually see where these cables are? Like, is there some kind of underwater map?
There absolutely is. Publicly available maps show the intricate network of undersea cables spanning the globe.
Again, so you're telling me I can go online right now and see the cables nearest to my location?
Exactly. You might be surprised by how close some of them are.
Wow, that's incredible.
You can even find information about the companies that own and operate specific cables, the landing points where they connect to land-based networks, and their history.
You've officially blown my mind. After this, I'm diving down that internet rabbit hole for sure. It's really fascinating, but it makes you wonder, with all this existing infrastructure, what's next for this technology? Are we reaching the limits of what these cables can do?
Not even close, really. The field is constantly evolving. Researchers and engineers are always looking for ways to increase capacity, improve reliability, and extend the lifespan of these cables.
So, faster speeds, more data, and longer laning cables.
Exactly.
Sign me up for all of that. But how do you even improve on something this complex?
Well, one area of active research is exploring new materials and designs to increase the amount of data that can be transmitted through a single fiber. We're talking about terabits and even petabits per second, speeds that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
Okay, now you're just using big words to impress me.
You can Google them.
Put that into perspective for those of us who don't speak tech jargon.
Okay, so think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to water your garden right now with our current technology. It's like using a high-powered hose.
Okay.
But with these advancements, we're talking about the flow of an industrial-sized fire hydrant through that same hose.
That's a much better analogy.
Thanks.
And I guess it makes sense considering how much our demand for data keeps increasing. You know, streaming video calls, cloud computing, everything's becoming more and more data intensive. But all this talk about expansion makes me wonder about the environmental impact. Laying thousands of miles of cable on the ocean floor
Yeah.
can't be good for the environment, right?
It's a valid concern and one that the industry is taking seriously.
Okay.
The environmental impact of cable laying is carefully assessed and minimized as much as possible.
So, what are they doing to protect marine life and ecosystems?
Well, they use special burial techniques in sensitive habitats to minimize disturbance to the seabed.
Okay.
Routes are chosen to avoid delicate ecosystems whenever possible. Environmental surveys are conducted before and after installation to monitor any potential impacts.
That's good to hear. It seems like they're making an effort to strike a balance between technological advancement and environmental responsibility.
Exactly.
But with all this talk of the future, do you really think these cables will remain the backbone of the internet? What about those satellite internet constellations we're hearing so much about? Are they a viable alternative?
It's definitely something to monitor. However, satellite connectivity adds latency and currently has limited bandwidth capacity.
Okay.
While undersea cables are likely to remain the dominant force for the foreseeable future, satellite internet constellations like the low Earth orbit systems developed by SpaceX offer some intriguing possibilities.
So the internet beamed down from space. Tell me more.
These constellations aim to provide global internet coverage from space, potentially reaching remote areas that are difficult or impossible to connect with cables.
That sounds amazing, especially for communities that are currently underserved by traditional internet infrastructure.
Absolutely.
But there must be some downsides, right? Otherwise, why wouldn't we have switched to satellite internet already?
As I mentioned before, one of the main challenges is latency, the delay in signal transmission,
Okay.
because the signals have to travel so far to and from space. Satellite internet tends to be slower than fiber optic connections, especially for activities that require real-time responsiveness, like online gaming.
So it's not a perfect solution, but it sounds like it could play an important role in expanding internet access to more people around the world.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about one technology replacing the other.
Right?
It's about finding ways to use different technologies to complement each other
Yeah.
and meet the diverse needs of a globally connected world.
It's crazy to think that just sending an email or watching a cat video on YouTube relies on this huge network of cables
I know.
right at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
We take it for granted, but it's really a marvel of modern engineering.
It really shows how interconnected our world is.
Yeah.
Not digitally, but physically. These cables are a tangible representation of that connection.
Absolutely. Linking continents enables the flow of information that shapes our lives.
Yeah. And it reminds us that even in our increasingly wireless world, everything still relies on a physical infrastructure, right?
Somewhere out there.
Yeah,
It is a real cable carrying those funny cat memes to your phone.
exactly. And that infrastructure needs constant maintenance and innovation to keep up with our demand for data. It's a real testament to human ingenuity and collaboration.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what's the key takeaway you want our listener to remember from this deep dive into the world of undersea fiber optic cables?
I think the most important thing is to recognize how crucial these cables are in our daily lives. And
Yeah,
they're the unsung heroes of the digital age, quietly enabling us to connect with each other,
right.
access information, and conduct business on a global scale.
They're the invisible threads that weave the fabric of our modern world.
Exactly. And as we rely more and more on digital technologies, it's more important now than ever to understand and appreciate this infrastructure. Yeah, it's complex and fragile, and we take it for granted way too often.
Well said. So, for our listener, who is hopefully as fascinated by this topic as we are,
I hope so.
we have a little challenge for you. Remember those online maps we mentioned earlier? Go explore them and see if you can find the undersea cables near you.
See if you can find the ones closest to your location.
Yeah. Think of it as a digital treasure hunt.
Yeah. It's a great way to visualize the scale and scope of this global network and to better understand how our world is connected.
And who knows, maybe it will spark a whole new fascination with the hidden wonders of the internet. Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.